What was your most horrifying moment in school? Mine happened on the first day of the 6th grade. In 9th grade I was taking a poop in the school bathroom. I personally didn't think it was a big deal. Yet, some ghetto kid found this extremely hilarious and stuck his iPod over the door and took a quick video of me sitting there pooping. He decided to go around showing all of his friends and I got a lot of crap for it. No pun intended on the crap. I would think they were being weird for watching a video of you pooping. My story involves shorts in 6th grade as well. One day I got up, put on my clothes for the day and went to school. I slept on the bus on the way to school because I was perpetually tired as a child. Anyway, I'm going about my day and I notice people looking at me funny. It was only a matter of time but some kid yelled out Daisy Dukes. I looked down and I was wearing a short pair of my sister's shorts. I was horrified. I tried to sag them a little lower so they didn't look as bad but everyone already knew. They called me Daisy from that day forward. Even worse, that day was picture day and even worse than that, it was a full body picture with one leg up, kinda like a Capt Morgan pose. Worst day of my life. We're gonna need to see the photo. 8th grade. I liked a boy named Bobby. Pretty sure he liked me back due to all the flirting he was doing. I was standing with my friends after school and I admitted to one of them that I liked him. I said it was a huge secret and please don't tell. My friend looks right at me and then over to him who was standing maybe 50 feet away and yells, "Hey Bobby, Oak Tree 3 likes you, what see teenage girls are." He never spoke to me again. A girl did that to me in 9th grade. I admitted to having a crush on a guy, and the moment he walked into the room, she told him, right there in front of me. Then she wondered why I didn't trust her with anything after that. I switched schools going into 3rd grade because I got into the GATE program. I wasn't aware that the school had uniforms and ended up going to the first day in a baggy SpongeBob shirt and baggy pants while everyone else was wearing a white polo and blue Dockers. The shirt didn't even fit me properly until the 6th grade. 8th grade was my first year back in public school after 3 years of homeschooling. I was extremely oblivious and awkward. I tried my hardest to blend in and not make a spectacle of myself, but I was unsuccessful. I later learned that everyone knew me as Big Backpack Girl. That year was full of traumatizing incidents, but I think the worst one was the day some boys put tacks on my chair. Somehow I didn't notice they were there for a good 2 or 3 minutes, but I was acutely aware that everyone in the class was laughing at me. I shifted my weight or something and suddenly all the tacks were sticking me in the butt. I jumped up and everyone lost it. I always thought tacks on a chair was something that only happened to cartoons. First day of 9th grade. Huge new school in a homeroom full of strangers. Teacher has us all state our names and former school. Got to me. I said my part, and he responds with, "Boys don't make passes at girls who wear glasses." FFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFFF was a bait and I spent the rest of the summer smacking that salami. First Friday of the school year comes around and we have Catholic Mass. I sit next to the hottest girl in my class. You could always see her bras through her white shirt. They had just gotten big enough for all the guys in the class to notice she was first. I had a boner before we sat down. Fidget with said boner all of Mass. When the Our Father prayer comes around and I held her hand, I managed to get a nice feeling pushing up against the pew in front of us. With the lack of blood to my brain, I think it's a good idea to hump said pew. We finish our prayer as I splodge the last week of future children in my pants. Quickly coming to my senses, I run to the bathroom. Brilliant think on my end, said just threw water on yourself and say the sink sprayed. I dose myself and come back right during communion. Everyone sees my pee pants. I turn red. I cry. I never live it down till I go to a different high school 3 years later. TL. DR. I came during. Deliver us from evil. And that's how exorcisms work. I have 2 things. 1. In kindergarten I tripped and fell while playing tag and got mud all over my clothes, all up and down my pants and shirt. I am not talking about a little mud. It looked like someone took a paintbrush to much clothes. 2. I was in 3rd grade when the hit movie Twister came out in theaters. The tornado sirens went off once when I was in class and I was freaked out. Understand, to a 3rd grader who just saw that movie, the thought of being killed in a tornado was a very real possibility. I ended up crapping my pants in class because I got so scared and freaked out. It was brutal. Ah, you crap your pants because of Twister. When I was in 1st or 2nd grade, I had to go to the bathroom during lunch recess. So, I went in and the only stall available was the one with a broken lock. I asked some girl if she would guard the door for me. She did for about 10 seconds, then told me I was taking too long. The door swung open in the middle of my peeing, and the bitchiest girl in the entire grade saw me pee, and laughed with all her B friends. In 5th grade, we had this tire swing on the playground. It was common practice for the guys to spin whoever was in it around and around as fast as they could, usually until the person flew out. On this particular day, I was the person in the tire. They were spinning and spinning and I felt myself sliding out. It was such an adrenaline rush, until I felt my belt loop catch in the chain. I tried to get them to stop but they thought I was just joking around and spun me faster, and I ended up on my butt. Belt loop torn off, but not before my pants were pulled down to my knees, taking my underwear with them. I managed to pull everything up pretty dang quick, but still, as the lone girl in a group of guys, it was mortifying. TLDR, got pantsed by a tire swing. Mine were just a few compiled events, stuff I can laugh about now, but as a shy 13-year-old, I was super embarrassed. In elementary school, I was the smart girl that wasn't overly pretty, thinned out and got boobs later. When I finally got my first crush, I was a little shy about it. He wouldn't be interested in me. Well, the class A jerk in my class saw that I might have a crush on this boy. He turns to me, my crush sitting right beside, and goes, "You're lesbian." Right, I was mortified. Not at the fact that being gay is a horrible thing, but that this jerk is talking about my sexuality in front of my crush. Well, then it decides to continue. Our valedictorian, all-star, decides to message me on MSN that night. She goes, "SGC22, can I ask you a question? It's just that I've heard all these rumors going around that you're a lesbian. I just want to know because we have gym class together and I'd be really uncomfortable changing in front of you if you were." Sadly, this happens quite often. I was in 1st grade. It was my birthday and I was wearing my awesome new Kmart jeans and color block t-shirt. Shut up, we were poor, and an older kid pushed me down in the playground. It wasn't until I made it up to class and was sitting in my desk when myself and everyone around me started to smell something putrid. It turns out the big kid pushed me into a nice pile of dog poo and I ended up having to wear something the nurse pulled out of the lost and found. A nice pair of brown corduroys. Actually wasn't my most horrible birthday. Looking forward to many more to come as well. When I was in preschool, I stuck a seed in my ear during nap time. The kid next to me was being annoying, so I put it in to block him out. We had to go to the hospital. Another one in preschool is when a teacher wouldn't let me use the restroom and I puked on my way to the bathroom. I covered my mouth and it sprayed onto the walls. One day a bus pulls into school and everyone coming off is just buzzing with excitement. I find someone I know and ask what is going on. Turns out that the bus had passed a woman jogging in the nude. Not a fit shapely woman, but a large rolling pounds of flesh 250 plus lb woman, jogging in the nude. To make matters worse, she was recognized as a teacher at the junior high. It turns out that she had gone off her meds and was somewhat out of her mind. She took the rest of the year off and maybe the next, but eventually she did come back and teach at that same school. I tried to look for a news article as proof, but after an initial search for town teacher jogging nude, I decided that it probably wasn't a good idea at work. We went on a field trip in middle school when I was probably 11 or 12. The first half of the trip was a long hike through the desert, and it was a hot day. Halfway through the hike I felt that I had to crap. I begged the park ranger to let me run off the trail and drop a squat, but she refused. It got worse and worse until I finally just crapped myself. As we continued hiking in the hot sun, the sloppy fesses dripped out of my underwear and down my legs. It began to harden in the sun until it formed a hard crust with jagged edges. It scraped and scratched my legs up as I walked. The bus to pick us up wasn't coming back until the end of the day, so I had to participate in group activities for an entire afternoon with hardened, stinky crap pants. I got an apology letter the next week from the park ranger. My teacher said, would you want her to come in to apologize in front of the class? Heck. Freaking number. I was about 12 or so, and my mother was a high school teacher in another county. My school had been closed for the day due to adverse weather, but hers was still open. Not being able to find a babysitter on such short notice, she took me to her school for the day. It was great for the most part. I got to hang out with her student aide and the other teachers who were her friends. It was great, that is, until I needed to go to the bathroom. I left the classroom and went down to the bathroom down the hall, locked myself in a stall not made for a child as small as I was, and proceeded to do my business in peace. That is until two large football players came in hooting and acting up, causing me to freeze in fear. With the door locked to the stall, they started slamming on it as well as the wall of the stall, telling Mike to hurry the heck up and that they would kick my butt if I didn't get out of there. I quickly finished and bolted out of there, them laughing the whole time. I ran back to my mother's classroom and explained why I looked so freaked out. She sent a male teacher down to the bathroom who caught them smoking in the bathroom, leading to them getting suspended. But still to this day I get nervous when other people come into a public restroom that I am occupying. In 7th grade my mom had me convinced perming my hair would be a good idea. I'm male. My nickname was and to some people still is PB, which stands for Perm B. Late to the party, so this probably won't get legs. My worst day of school was my sophomore year of college. I woke up, like any other day, made some Cocoa Puffs, sat down, played some Halo and smoked a quick bowl of marijuana before my Aikido, martial arts, class, ate my cereal, got my stuff together as my phone started ringing. It was my brother calling, telling me not to go to class. At first I was befuddled. He went on to further explain that he had heard something about a gunman on campus. It seemed so unbelievable that it couldn't be true. He had no details, but he sounded serious, so I took his advice. I quickly told all around me the same thing. There was a reported gunman at Cole Hall. Everyone got on their phones and shared the news with all they knew. Still, nothing on the television, nothing on the radio, or email from the school. 12 whole minutes passed. It seemed like an hour. The TV and emergency email lines started reporting that there was indeed a gunman on campus. My brother's roommate, co-worker, and good friend was killed that day. I sat in disbelief for the following hours, unsure how to feel. That was the worst day of school I had ever had. I was on my way to the field house, sharing a parking lot with Cole Hall. I would have been out the door in less than 5 minutes. One phone call stopped me from experiencing the chaos firsthand. I spent the remainder of the year looking over my shoulder in every lecture hall. I had been shaken. 5 died that day in DeKalb. That was the worst day of school. Mine was on the first day of year 7. I went to a Roman Catholic school because they had the best record in the area. They were very lenient. Didn't give crap when it came to religion though, so it wasn't that bad. They did however have a statue of Jesus and Joseph in the entrance hall. We were told that this statue was very sacred to the school and really meant a lot to the head. Now, fast forward to the middle of the day. I was very nervous all day being the SAP I am, and hated being somewhere I didn't know with so many new people. It made me feel physically sick. Then, I managed to get myself lost. Well, that did it. I went green and was going to projectile vomit everywhere due to fear and embarrassment. I sprinted for the toilets, then realized I had no idea where they were, so I just started running round trying to find them. It was too late, it was coming out, so I accepted fate, turned my head, and vomited all over the statue. There is still vomit marks on it. I was also in 6th grade when this happened. My class was watching some educational film in social studies, when all of a sudden I felt a certain wetness on the back of my pants. Naturally, I wore khakis that day. When I stood up, one of my friends looked at me in absolute horror and whispered, "You have blood on your pants." My worst enemy at the time caught wind of what happened and proceeded to tell all of my grade what happened. All week, people giggled and pointed at me, all the while taunting. Ashley's started her period. Although this happened 7 years ago, I'm still haunted by it. Second grade for me, 8 or 9 years old. I ripped my jeans between my legs trying to climb over the fence, and for the rest of the day I sat with my legs crossed. 2 hours before school finishes, my mother comes and picks me up. I asked her how did she know about my jeans. She replied, "What about your jeans?" "I came because I have something to tell you." "Tell me what?" "Your grandfather passed away." "I'm sorry." One day in my first grade class, we got a new student. She was a very quiet girl, and honestly, rather strange. Whenever she did speak, it was usually about her older brother, who she seemed at least mildly obsessed with, in a way that bordered on creepy. She was nice enough, though, I suppose. So, being the nice kid I was, I tried befriending her. Shortly after this, she started following me everywhere, around the classroom, the hallways, the playgrounds. She wouldn't leave me alone, and when she sneaked up behind me, she would always whisper various things and stick her hands down the back of my pants. This carried on for a little while before I finally confronted the teacher about it. What ensued was the most awkward visit with school authorities I have ever had, as I explained to the principal how she always put her hands in my pants. TLDR. I had a problem in the first grade that I wish I had now. So, seeing as how, once again, I'm coming in after the 2-hour mark, maybe I can post this without it being seen. Yet again, I was a social outcast in elementary school. People made up rhymes about me, pretended to be my friend just so they could humiliate me, and made the popular kid ask me out, just to say "just kidding" 4 eyes in front of all our classmates. In junior high, that all changed. I got boobs, brushed my hair, put my glasses away and put on makeup. I also landed the most popular boy on the school as a boyfriend. I had it made. I also got a lot of attention, wanted or not. Well, the summer before junior high started, I officially became a woman, and was still learning how to deal with all that. One week we were having some testing of sorts, and I couldn't leave school. I started that time of the month. It was unexpected, and I was unprepared. I thought it would be smart to just ignore it and go on my day. How bad could it really be, right? Answer: bad. By lunch, I was wearing a sweater around my waist to cover the stain on the back of my pants, and by the end of the day, I got my extra sweater to wrap around the front of me to hide the stain running down my legs in the front. To make matters worse, it was about 100 degrees outside, and I had to walk home. I was offered a ride home, but was far too embarrassed to get in the car, for fear they will either smell the issue, or I would stain their car seat. I kept to myself that day, and I have no idea why I didn't ask one of my friends for something, but I was so horrified by how things went, I pretended to be mad at all my friends so they wouldn't be around me all day. It was silly and gross. Moral of the story: always be prepared for any kind of surprise. TLDR. I didn't wear a pad and bled everywhere. In my last year of school, we had a substitute French teacher who everybody hated, even her own colleagues. I was never that good at French, but our usual teacher was very forgiving of language deficits if the content was decent. This substitute wasn't. A week before we got our exams back, she used about 15 minutes of class time to be at me about how bad my exam was and how my language was terrible in front of everybody else. She rambled on and on about how disappointed she was and how I was a total failure. When I got my result, it was a C. To this day I have no idea what the fuss was about, but it was pretty humiliating at the time. TLDR. Teacher shamed me in front of the class for 15 minutes for a less than average result at a French test. Freshman year, we were in strength class and I got pants ed, shorts and underwear. So I stood there just horrified at my pre-puberty wiener just dangling there. Didn't live that one down for a while. As a 12-year-old girl, my world revolved around boys. Finally, the day before winter break, my crush asked me out. I was on cloud 9. He forgot we were going out over winter break. Cue constant playing of Total Eclipse of the Heart. It was picture day, 7th grade. I was fiddling with a pen as I waited in line to get my picture taken. I must have bent it wrong or something, because the pen broke and sprayed ink all over my face and clothes. I was horrified. Another student somehow convinced me to say "I frick you" in German to my teacher in a class he wasn't in. Excuse me while I cringe myself to sleep. I vividly remember my worst moment in grade school. It was the 6th grade party and all the parents sent their kids to school with candy, cookies, cakes and soda. The school was celebrating the 6th graders who were graduating and leaving that year. The party was really fun. From what I can remember, my friends and I were joking around together, all guys, and before you know it one of my friends dared me to do something awful. It was the last of school, and I was like, heck yeah I'll do it, but not saying heck, just however a 6th grader would say it. He handed me a full cup of Sprite and said, go pour it on Jordan, the hottest girl in the school. It'll be really funny. So with the support of my best male friends, I took the cup and confidently walked across the room to her sitting in her desk and poured the entire. It was not funny at all. Nobody laughed, not even my friends. Immediately I wanted to die. It was the worst moment I can't even begin to describe. What was I to do? Say sorry? Yeah right. She just looked at me and didn't say a word. I wish she would have, just so I knew what she was thinking. But she didn't. The teacher rushed over and some of the other girls in class ran to the sink to get paper towels. And nobody was about to let me help. I'm 20 and I still remember this like it was yesterday. TLDR. I dumped a Sprite on a hot chick at school when I was 13. High school. Everyone's quietly working on some research in class. I slowly lean a bit so that I can ease out a big fart that was threatening to let loose. Right then, girl next to me goes YARRR and reaches out to prod me in the ribs. Combination of her cry and reacting to getting poked loses any subtlety in my rectal release, and I knock my desk along with that rather loud noise. She stops and stares. Did you just fart? I look around, acting confused, trying to suppress any sort of blush. Fart? UHH. No, maybe you just heard the desk slide? Still not sure if anyone believed that or not. A guy was sleeping in class once. He woke himself up with a fart. He had no clue what he had done. Well, not sure how many will see this, but I feel I can contribute. In high school, I was a theater nerd. The whole idea of acting hadn't even crossed my mind until sophomore year. I mentioned to my dad that the play they were doing was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Little adult and content for a bunch of high school kids, but the director cut out some of the darker scenes. I figured I'd try out for shoots and giggles. Maybe I'd get a non-speaking role or something. Nope. Lead role. My first time trying out for anything. And I landed Randall P. Freaking McMurphy. Nervous doesn't even describe how I was feeling on opening night. There was a scene where I was to walk out on stage in a towel wrapped around my waist with the most flamboyant boxers I could find worn underneath. I chose a pair of boxers covered in rubber duckies that were, in retrospect, a little small for me. During the scene, I was to rip off the towel to show Nurse Ratchet the goods, and when she saw the boxers, she was supposed to say very funny and haha, all that good stuff. Well, it seems that small boxers don't go well when you whip a towel off. My downstairs dweller decided it was his time to shine as well. So, with my ding dong hanging out, I finish out the scene, completely oblivious to the fact that the sold out auditorium was laughing hysterically at my Johnson. I walk off stage thinking I did a job well done. The worst part is that I didn't even find out about it till the next night. One of my co-stars threw me a pair of whitey tighties and says you were the talk of all the parties last night. Like a ton of bricks it hit me. Living in a small town, my graduating class was 39 people, meant that everyone had heard about my special appearance. To say I was traumatized is understating it. TLDR. Randall Penis McMurphy. I've had issues with disordered eating since middle school. My sophomore year of high school, I was in a rut of anorexic tendencies. My last class of the day was biology, and we were looking at slides of fungus or some crap under microscopes. All of a sudden, I started to feel incredibly ill, so I hopped down from my stool to make a run for the bathroom. I made it 2 or 3 steps before I passed out cold. I came to a few seconds later in a pool of my own pee. The very worst part was that the teacher elected a really nice kid that I had had a crush on for most of the year to walk me to the nurse's office. The look of disgust on his face when we wrapped his arm around my pee-soaked lower back still makes my face turn red. When I was in 2nd grade I, weirdly, got really into historical fiction. Little House on the Prairie, American Girl, all of that. My class that year had a planned field trip where we'd go to this park of old houses and pretend to be pioneers for the day. We had to dress up like people from the time and make butter, feed horses, whatever. So during class the one black girl in my class, Ebony, sweet as could be, asked the teacher what she should wear. At this point I had a great idea. Since black people at the turn of the 19th century were slaves, she should dress up like a slave and be the class slave. I raised my hand and said, Ebony should wear rags and she should be a slave, since back in those times black people were slaves. I meant this innocently. At the time my perception of slave was just what a black person was. A slave was Addie from the American Girl books. They were strong noble people who made their escape. I had no clue what I had just said or as to the negative implications. The teacher made such a show about it. She called me a racist in front of the entire class. I was what, 7? I was so mortified. I cried every day for months because the class called me a racist and I didn't know what that meant. I think it's a little fricked up in retrospect, since I obviously meant it innocently. If I hadn't, the teacher could have used that as a teaching point and politely corrected me. Frick that teacher. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.